All right. Hey, shout out to Scoops. Great comment on the last video. I was saying, let's be honest with one another. Reddit has become a poetry cesspool. There's really nothing good going on there, it's just basically for people who are out of touch with mainstream literary life. And Scoops pushed back and said, okay, well, that's fine. I agree with you. There's some quality issues there, but a lot of these lit mags, they're publishing junk too. Well, I'm a poetry troll. I go out there. I'm honest with you guys. I tell it like it is. Let's look at some lit mags together. I got a big pile of literary magazines. I picked some up at Barnes and Nobles, and sometimes these journals send me a journal now and again if I'm appearing in one. So we kind of have a little pile to go through. So let's get to work and let's discuss how these things look. Let's open up with Harvard Review. Christina Thompson is the editor, and Major Jackson is the poetry editor. I know the name Major Jackson. He used to be UVM faculty right near me, he's a great poet. Was well loved around here. Went on to bigger and better things. I think he's at Vandy now. There's only going to be five poets in this issue. That's a very small number, and they're all extremely well-established poets. These are all blue-chip names. They all have major awards under their belt. They have books out. But you know what? Let's see what's up here. Okay, we're just going to look at one poem here from Harvard Review to see what Major Jackson decided to offer us. This is from Arthur S. And again, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing Arthur S.'s name wrong. This poem is Wildfire Season. We'll just read a little bit here. Wildfire Season. The wind stokes flames, and they leap across the fire line. To the north, a jagged red and yellow ridgeline crackles with billowing clouds of smoke. To the far north, a singer stretches walrus bladder and, completing a box drum, starts to hum. He nods as song takes shape in his hands. Okay, I'll stop reading there. We're not going to read the entire poem just because I think it will be, if you like what you're hearing, you could pick up the Harvard Review and support this literary endeavor, or you could buy one of his books from Arthur S. That's S-Z-E. A beautiful, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous writing. There is zero chance, you would find poetry like that on Reddit, unless it's a repost or something like that. But in OC poetry, for sure, there's no one who can write like that. It's absolutely gorgeous writing, absolutely gorgeous. So fantastic work by Major Jackson in selecting. Again, it shouldn't be too hard, right? I mean, he has a huge, powerful platform. I'm sure his mission that Christina Thompson gave him is fairly clear, which is you don't need to worry about discovering unknowns. You don't need to worry about that. We're just going to give a platform to the most deserving, to the people who, from your perspective, you believe is the best writing right now in the United States. Put them in our journal. Thank you very much. And that appears to be largely what's happening. Okay, let's go to another Boston area journal, Agni out of BU. This is William Pierce and Sven Burkertz. I came across Sven Burkertz when I was at Emerson. Nice guy, just made his acquaintance. Just full disclosure here, he was the Gutenberg Elegies guy. You could go and read the Gutenberg Elegies. It's interesting. Very interesting, interesting guy. In terms of the poetry editors, we have Jennifer Kwan Dobbs and Jessica Q. Stark. I'm not really familiar with either of those ladies, but that doesn't mean they're not really well qualified to do this. Agni comes from this kind of counterculture movement and reputation. I think it used to be or inherited from the Partisan Review. So again, it should be kind of left of center in its attitude. There's a lot of poets in this issue. There's a lot. I counted at least 25 different poets in this journal. You can see it's pretty thick here. And, a lot of them have more than one piece. So you're talking 50, 60, 70 poems. I'm not exactly sure of the count. And when I just leafed through and looked at their credentials, they all have pretty good credentials. Almost everyone has at least a book out. So it's not quite as selective as the Harvard Review was, but it's still pretty damn selective. It's hard to get into Agni, right? And all these poets have pretty strong fucking credentials. It's kind of ridiculous just how many strong poets there are out there. Let's see if their poems are strong though. Okay, so I just picked one poem out here. Michael Bizet has One Small Thing. We'll just read a little bit. The Odyssey neglects to one small thing the Odyssey neglects to mention is that after Odysseus sails away from the cave of the Cyclops, and Cyclops returns home and slumps against the cave wall, and the embers bleach white, and the life he once lived drains slowly out, and his death pours slowly in, that is the moment when the baby Cyclops comes toddling back from the dark recess. Again, I'm not going to read the whole poem. I think it's an interesting poem. It's trying to turn a myth on its head a little bit. Let's just look at one more piece here. Who is this by? A whole bunch of poems here. A fistful of poems from Diana Mary Delgado. And let's just look at this. Sierra Vista Court. All there is to know is that she was 18 when she had me and used to do exercises for her thighs, spit into her mascara while staring out the window. She worked at Pick and Save, and when she got home, she'd take off her smock, smell for other men. This poem has nothing to do with domestic violence or my father staking my foot on the lawn with a fork. Okay, again, I'm not going to read the whole poem, but I felt this poem was interesting. It's a type of poem you might come across about difficult domestic situations, kind of trauma and inherited trauma, difficult upbringing, all this type of stuff, class consciousness, all this type of stuff that some Reddit poems want to do. This is, if you could see it on the page here a little bit, you can see it's very economical. The lines are very controlled. So again, I mean, both these poems are good. I mean, would I say they're truly amazing and off the wall amazing? Incredible. Maybe I wouldn't, but I would say they're doing a reasonable job here of kind of advancing an editorial proposal. Agni is doing these things that do seem sort of counterculture-y, within that mandate. And Harvard Review is kind of picking the cream of the crop. Okay. Let's have a look here at New England Review. Again, sorry to have this regional focus. It's just what I can get my hands on quickly, folks. These are all really good journals. These are all top shelf journals, for sure. New England Review, the editor is Carolyn Kuber, and the poetry editor is the esteemed Jennifer Chong. Again, this is a journal with a lot up there, at least with Harvard Review and its ability to pick and choose from all the best. We have a Kim Addonizio poem here, Existential Elegy. Kim Addonizio is a really, really big player, very influential poet. So let's see how she does with her Existential Elegy. Maybe everyone is walking around thinking something abstract and ontological, like the existence of others as a freedom defines my situation, and is even the condition of my own freedom. Maybe de Beauvoir opens her notebook and writes it as soon as she sits down at the Deux Magots. I don't know. Life is inherently meaningless, probably thinks Sartre across from her at the table, studying the waiter. The chef savagely prepares a tart for its destruction, yet the street lamp blinks on without thinking light then nothing, as the booksellers along the Seine close their metal boxes. Now, this is a type of poetry that absolutely really isn't for me. It's stuffed with these kind of famous philosopher figures, and it comes across as, I think poetry is always pretentious. So merely saying this poem is too pretentious for me is in itself a kind of a pretension. But I do feel like I could use a little bit more of a lyric touch, and I could use a more description. I mean, this description of the cafe and the tart, which I guess kind of slant rhymes with Sartre. I could use a little bit more of this cafe scene. Was intriguing to me. But again, who am I? I'm not going to come after Kim Adanzio. It just doesn't make sense. I'm a nobody. She's at the top of her game. I think, again, I think it'd be tough to find a poem written to this exacting standard that you'd come across and read it. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm in love with this poem, or that I think everything in the New England Review is really good, because I found the New England Review to be surprisingly uneven. A lot of the poetry wasn't to my taste. There really wasn't that much in here that caught my eye, and was frankly a little bit boring. There was some stuff in translation, but I thought their stuff was kind of like the literary version of edgelord, very pensive, very overthought, very performative, only really kind of works on the page to me, but I don't know. I mean, again, not to take away from what they're doing, I think they have a vision that they're advancing, right? So they have an idea for what they want to do in their journal. If you send stuff there and you're not either extremely successful already in your career, or doing something really, really aligned with their mission, it's not going to work. So that's kind of the top shelf in general. Is again, they have their pick of the roost. They can publish whoever they want. Okay. Similarly, being able to publish whoever they want, we have a more general audience journal or literary, just general interest magazine. We have the New Yorker here. The New Yorker covers current events. They cover music. They cover really anything related to culture or society. It's something you could probably come across. I like the New Yorker. I like the cartoons. We have Kevin Young as the poetry editor there. I like Kevin Young. I like his criticism. I like his anthology of African American poetry. I really recommend that. I think it's a tough job. Okay, so we have this poem here. I can't really see that. Bat in Blue by Ariel Francisco. I don't know Ariel Francisco, so I'm not. We're not going to perseverate on that. Obviously, everybody submits to New Yorker. A lot of it's going to be through agents for the big names. They can submit via their agent. And if you're not submitting through an agent, I think you have a much lower chance of being published at the New Yorker. A very slim chance, probably. But that's just how it goes, right? I mean, it's the New Yorker. They have a huge circulation. They got a ton of submissions, and really they have to do what they need to do to obtain, maintain their reputation and sell magazines. So we'll just read a little bit of Bat in Blue here. Winter's revelation is always the same, longing. A flamingo flies overhead, a pink axe cutting through the sky. I think of Tony Montana alone in his hot tub, his world and everything in it on the cusp of collapse, watching a nature documentary, seeing flamingos taking flight and yelling, "Pelican, fly." So I find this poem boring and uninteresting and pretentious in a different way. It's kind of pop culture reference to Tony Montana from Scarface. Isn't that interesting to me? But again, it might be interesting to someone reading the New Yorker. They might think it's hilarious. They might really identify with this. I don't know. I think it's weird to me that they would publish that poem over many others that they probably could. But that's what they did, right? Do I think that that poem could probably be equaled on Reddit? I don't know. Probably, yeah. I mean, I probably read something silly about Tony Montana on Reddit and pelicans, and that's the type of thing Redditors might come up with. So, okay, great. Point taken, Scoobs. Okay, let's go on. We have the new Criterion. This is what's become of right-wing high culture, I suppose. I don't know if it was always so kind of neocon, but certainly is that way now. I'm kind of impressed anyone on the right can still formulate complete sentences. Roger Kimball is the editor, and Adam Kirsch is actually a poet whose criticism I found to be pretty useful. He's in charge of the poetry desk there. And they don't publish that much poetry, but they do give it a prominent place when they do. So it's taking me a moment to find out where that was in here. Adam Kirsch has given the nod to Brian Brodeur, again, a name I'm not familiar with, but that doesn't make him bad in any way, shape, or form. Let's just have a look. This looks like a sonnet on from Brian Brodeur here. On not baptizing my daughter, I'd keep her faultless as the winter crow pecking another crow smeared on the street, not scaring as each passing car in snow swerves to avoid it. And she asks me straight if birds have souls. I laugh. Her face goes tense. Maybe, I say, and notice the soft sweep of drifts has erased a neighbor's wire fence. Crow-crowded pine boughs where the crows must sleep. Hard to ignore their cackle or the brittle sound of claws scraping the bleachers of the tree. Okay, again, we're not going to read the whole poem. That we're kind of into the volta of the sonnet here, but again, this is a strict formal sonnet that we've been given. It obeys the rules of the form with its rhyme scheme and meter. It's extremely well prosecuted, extremely accurately prosecuted. I would say the odds of someone on Reddit being able to do this anywhere near this level of skill would be infinitesimally small. It's just never ever going to happen. Brian Brodeur is clearly a master of formal verse. I found this poem to be beautiful. His ability to paint and observe closely is beautiful. I've read it a couple times. I don't completely understand all of it, and that doesn't really bother me or disturb me. The fact that I can't kind of put it under my thumb, it hasn't really impacted my ability to appreciate it. So oddly, I would say the new Criterion, despite the odiousness of their political stances, the poetry, certainly, at least speaking for myself, appeals to me. I couldn't write that poem. All right. And nor could anyone on Reddit. Okay. Let's continue. I picked this up because I was at Barnes & Noble. I thought you guys should see this. This is Best American Poetry 2022. This is edited by Matthew Zapruder. This is an anthology, comes out every year. And they have a different guest editor every year, although David Lehman oversees the whole production. It's kind of like an award ceremony system for people in the biz. It's a way for big name poets to kind of congratulate one another a little bit. Getting in here is a really big deal. For poets who are trying to break in and make their career, getting the nod in Best American is a big deal. That being said, Zapruder, in my opinion, I don't really know his work super well. I apologize. In my opinion, his introduction doesn't really define in any meaningful way, for me at least, what he would think quality or best should mean or would mean. It's pretty squishy, And as a result, I feel like because he has a kind of a weak or no real test or litmus for what should or shouldn't be in here, a lot of these poems are just kind of not that good. And a lot of them are just kind of, they lack editing, quite frankly. They're long and rambling, or it just doesn't seem to be any reason for the particular images or sequences to be included. And there's a lot of really great names in here, a lot of names I admire, poets who, I've read, and I don't even know they're getting their best. Just looking over here, we have Louise Gluck, Ocean Vuong, Gerard Stern, Diane Seuss, Lee Young Lee. I mean, just like tons and tons of Bianca Stone. I mean, just tons and tons of really, really, really great poets in here. And, I don't want to put anyone on the spot. Just, reading through it, it's just kind of disappointing and bland, boring. They sort everything alphabetically, which makes it even more boring. It reminds me a little bit, there's this guy, Robert Parker, who did this thing for wine where he rated all wines on a scale of 1 to 100. And he did this, he didn't care where they're from. It could be California wines, it could be French wines, or Italian. It didn't matter. It was all, 1 to 100. And he liked big wines, right? He kind of changed the wine industry with this stupid 1 to 100 ranking. And I kind of feel like Best American has the same kind of distorting effect, where instead of kind of appreciating the different things that poetry can do, we end up kind of having this like best idea, which quite frankly, I mean, a lot of this stuff just sucks. And I think it's hurting American poetry, not helping to have this anthology. I would like to see more focused anthologies, or Best American focus on different groups of people or different schools of thought. Make it more contentious. Don't try to be so inclusive. Try to do different things each year and push things in different directions, so that we can have some debate and argument about what's good and what's not in poetry. And everything can't be good, and that's obvious because all these people being included probably are being included because they know the right people, and that's always been part of poetry. And you could say the same thing to a certain extent, about some of these other journals. And it's hard. Let's say you are Major Jackson at the Harvard Review, and people, your friends and your colleagues, they're going to exert a fair amount of pressure to try to get in there. You're going to have to hold the line, and you're going to have to try to be disciplined and serious about what you do. It's not an easy job to manage egos and reputations, and when you turn people down, you have to find a way to do that that's diplomatic. There's people who do it better or worse. It's a tough job at the top. All right, so let's descend down a little bit, and let's look at some journals where I've had a poem taken. We won't look at my work this time around, at least, but we can see kind of more of this mid-tier. Just quickly here. Kind of what the mid-tier has to offer. This is Dune's review here. This is a journal with a strong regional identity. It's very focused on Michigan and the Upper Peninsula. Teresa Scollin and Jennifer Yates edit. They're both seasoned poets in their own right. It's again, this is a passion project. I doubt they're getting paid to do this. Maybe they get some grants now and again, but they have to do other things, and that this is a labor of love that they're doing. So that's again a different thing from these other journals that we've talked about. Okay, so just look quickly. Sam Collier has this poem Michigan Winter here. Here we are in this December field after years of combing woods for a place to see clearly. The sky opens up a moment for us, shows us the sun blue heart of the day. Companions, we wander from winter to winter, crossing the Midwest, testing the velocity of sticks, the reach of a whistle. I know money, cooking, how to operate the car. He can find the dead where they lie buried in the snow, field mice, voles, songbirds, leaking scent. So again, this might be about a person, probably a man and his dog. They're wandering, so they might be homeless. It's open to interpretation there. Again, I'm not going to read the whole poem. I thought it was well done. It's hard to write poems about our pets or about pets in general. I thought it was a nicely done. Susanna Sheffer here. Come with me into the great hall where the dinosaurs still rise toward the ceiling, filling the room like declarative sentences. Just the fact of them astounding us. Each rib embraces an empty space, telling us nothing about their lumbering bodies or heat or beating hearts. This is what we will have to invent, or at least reassemble. So again, the poem continues from there, but a good poem about a visit to a natural history museum and encountering these big bones of dinosaurs. I thought it was well observed. Again, I just don't think Reddit poets have those chops to do that. And that, again, speaks to the quality of the editing that we have here, where, these two editors are reading through a lot of stuff. Maybe they're soliciting some stuff. Maybe they're trying to get some people from known quantities and pull in the best writers that they can, the best poets that they can. But again, a lot of the stuff they're receiving is unsolicited, is via submittable or however they did it. I don't remember off the top of my head. And that is necessarily going to be a labor of love. Reading all those unsolicited stuff, you're going to read a lot of stuff that isn't that good, and you're going to need to stay sharp and dose your caffeine correctly, and really stay focused on your objective here. And I think they did a pretty good job there. We'll do one more here. We can do a Cumin out of the UK. For diversity's sake, we can go to the UK. What did I say about a Cumin? Danielle Hope has the helm here. She has 4 books out from Rockingham Press, which is a small publisher north of London. So I think by and large, I don't know the UK scene as well, but I think by and large, a journal like Cumin is going to focus on people who are, writers in the United Kingdom who are primarily writing in their free time, who might have another job. They're not as likely to be academics. But the English have a long tradition, obviously, of writing in this way, and it doesn't necessarily mean the stuff is going to be bad. Ironically, here I have a poem from Sidney Lee, a rather established poet and Vermont compatriot of mine. Sidney Lee, I guess, decided to send some poems across the pond. Or it's possible his agent did. I don't know how this ended up in a Cumin, but it did. Sidney Lee has Violence. He has the subtitle here, 4th of August, 2020. We once longed to have bald eagles back, and back they came from poisons that doomed so many over the years. At last, they're common again. This morning I saw 2 wrangle over a hatchling loon in the crown of a pine. Their little war shivered the boughs like earthquake. I figured one had carried the prey to that tree. I didn't look away. I didn't, but watched till they ripped apart the chick. Each raptor took its portion away, entrails hanging from the larger one's grip. So it goes on. You can see that if you look at the poem on the page here, you can see it's structured into these tercets, and he's using this tercet structure to get some slant rhyme and rhyme possibilities going. But it's not strict, and it's varied, and it's pleasing. I mean, Sidney Lee is a very, very, very accomplished poet. And it definitely is an honor to appear next to him or near him in a journal. And there's a lot of other interesting work in here. So this is kind of a big highly varied collection that is going to surprise you with the quality of stuff you can find there. All of these journals taken together, they have different agendas, they have different goals, they're trying to do different things. And I think that's important for us to remember, except for Best American, which is just, I guess, a backslapping system. But in general, these different journals have these kind of different aims and different standards for what they want to do, and that takes them in these slightly different directions. So I think, but that's helpful for us as aspiring poets or as practicing poets, because we can find places which align to our goals, and even if they turn us away and they reject our stuff, we can help ourselves by reading more of what they're doing and trying to approach that standard and understand, kind of maybe dismantle or take apart or turn over some of the successful poems in there. So if you really love stuff that's going on in the New England Review, which I quite frankly don't, then that's going to push your writing in a different direction than, if you like the stuff that's going on in the New Criterion. You're going to go in two extremely incompatible directions with your craft. They're not going to take you to the same place. They're going to take you to very, very different places. And that's important to understand and appreciate. In Reddit, you don't really see anything like that. You don't really see this idea that you can kind of improve toward a certain standard that you hold yourself to, because a lot of the poets don't really have any standard that they're attempting to approach. An upvote really, quite frankly, just doesn't do it for me. So I hope I've given you a taste of some of the stuff what's out there. Again, it is pretty hit or miss. There is a lot of stuff that's just not going to be to your taste or just really isn't that good. But I also think it's important to understand how these journals are produced. And especially at the top tier, it's produced by reputation and by knowing people is really going to be the only way to get into a lot of these very top shelf journals. Is you're going to have an established reputation in most cases. I think there's much more interesting and much more action going on at these smaller and mid-tier journals. I think that's where the excitement is. I think that's the people, kind of the minor league systems out there, developing talent, trying to advocate for different viewpoints for poetry, and trying to create that kind of next generation of people out there. So challenge yourself and fold up some poems into envelopes or log on to Submittable, or send me a piece or two at the Criterion. I'm happy to read your stuff. We read blind, so we don't have any of these reputational problems because we don't even take cover letters. I think the practice is counterproductive and dumb, but then again, I don't have the problems that the Harvard Review and Major Jackson has. Thank God for that. Okay, thank you so much for dropping in, and we'll talk soon.